Hi everyone, welcome to Crafting with a Cocktail, where we make crafts and cocktails all in one segment. My name is Danielle and I'm super excited you're here. If you've already been here, I'm even more grateful for you, but if you're new, please consider liking, commenting, and subscribing to my channel for more fun content. Today I'm super excited to share with you that it is part of a partnership with Sola Wood Flowers, which is a woman-owned company that makes wood flowers that are absolutely stunning. And I chose to make a gorgeous flower crown out of them, and you will be seeing them in future DIYs, as well as I only used a small portion of the gorgeous flowers they sent me today. So cheers, and let's jump right in. I'm kicking off this video with our lavender lemonade recipe, which includes lavender essential oils, lemons, ice, water, honey, and a fresh sprig of lavender if you have it available. If not, no big deal. And I am using 2 lemons. One was small and one was medium. I think I could have gotten away with 2 small lemons for this one because it was a bit acidic in the end, and you'll see in a minute that I do have to add more honey, but that's okay. If you are not a fan of seeds, then you could totally juice these and then strain them and then add the strained liquid back into your jar or glass. They don't bother me so much, so I just tried to pick them out as I went and then tried to avoid them as well while I was juicing. I also took a slice of lemon that I cut in half so I could squeeze one in there and garnish it with a piece of lemon later, just for aesthetic purposes. But if you are doing a smaller glass than this is a pretty tall mason jar, I would just do 1 small lemon. If you were doing a pitcher, I would do probably 4 or 5 lemons, depending on how much you want. Then I'm squeezing in some raw honey. Now you have to do this before adding the ice and water, because otherwise it'll get really thick and slow, kind of like molasses. It won't really stir in well. And I will say that I should have initially added more honey. I do add some more later. Now I'm coming in with my lavender essential oils. So I just picked this one up at Walmart, but you can use any essential oil you have at home or just pick some up like I did. Just want to make sure it's at least of decent quality. I added 2 drops of this, and I will tell you, as someone who is not a super lavender lover, I like it a little bit, and I'm actually getting more used to it. 2 is more than enough. If you're making a pitcher's worth, maybe 3 or 4. If you're making a small glass, just 1 drop. Then I just topped it off with some ice and water. Now, this is the optional part. Would be you could add a shot or 2 of vodka in here, and that would be delicious for a summer cocktail. I'm just leaving mine plain today, but keep that in mind if you do want to make this an alcoholic cocktail. As you can see, I added some rinsed sprigs of lavender in there and some extra honey, which you can see is having difficulty stirring in, as I explained earlier. Now I'm just garnishing it with some more lavender and a piece of lemon, and that's it. Cheers, my friends. Let me know if you make this cocktail or mocktail either way. I would love to hear if you liked it. Let's move on to our stunning flower crown DIY. Here I am wearing it outside. I first want to highlight how beautiful Sola Wood Flowers products are. This is the box I received from them. I got 1 large plain assortment of flowers, which means they are just like whites, beiges, bark colors. These are wood flowers, and they are so soft and so beautiful. They almost feel like foam. You would never guess that it's wood, but they are stunning. I also ordered a pack that had a variety of colors, and I will have a link for their products down below that you can use if you want to shop all of their incredible products. They have sales all the time too, which is awesome, and they sell dyes. So if you buy those plain flowers, you can dye them yourself. Thank you, Sola Wood, for sending me these wonderful products for me to feature in today's flower crown video. Today's DIY is so simple and affordable. I am starting out with this wired greenery that I got from Dollar Tree. You could also just do this yourself by using some some of that like thick wired jute twine, or you could even try doing this with a headband instead of a crown shape. But I'm going in with this stuff because it already had the wire inside of it, which makes it bendable and moldable to my head, as well as the leaves around it. And here are all my crazy faces as I'm trying to cut this wire, which was a little more difficult than I expected. But basically I just used it, wrapped it around my head to the size I needed, and then cut it to that size so that I would be able to create my base for my flower crown. I'm taking the ends of that and just twisting them around each other as best as can be, and then I'm going to secure it with some hot glue, which is what you can see here. It is super important to make sure that when you're measuring your flower crown around your head that it's not too tight, because once you start adding products and stuff to it, you're adding your flowers. I'm going to use felt in a minute. It might be even tighter then. So I have mine just sitting comfortably, and that's the way that I cut it and measured it. Now I'm pulling out all the flowers that I want to use for this project. You could use any flowers you want. I'm using, of course, the Sola Wood Flowers, and I went for a more natural look for this particular DIY. But you could, of course, use as many colors as you want. I am then starting to arrange where I would like these flowers, what I want as my centerpiece, and so I decided that the centerpiece or focal point should be this kind of white puffy flower. Guys, sorry, I don't actually know flower names, so I'm just going to describe them the best I can. I'm using some cut strips of green felt that I have to secure them to the back. So I first take a flower, I glue it to the wire, and then I use some green felt to extra secure it. I burned myself so many times during this. Please use some sort of something to protect your fingers because, ouch, it really hurt. When you're figuring out your arrangement, I suggest having more than enough flowers in front of you just so you can kind of play with it. Luckily, I ended up using most of the ones that I had pulled out, and I will definitely be using these again in the future. This is my first flower crown, actually, so I'm really excited about how it turned out, but I'm basically making it pretty symmetrical. I started from my focal point in the middle, and then I'm just matching up each flower as they go to around the sides. Using that same technique of hot gluing it down, I hold it for about 10 seconds with just the flour, the hot glue, and that wire or base. And then I'm going in with my strip of felt and hot gluing that on and holding that as well for about 10 seconds. If I last, like I said, I burnt myself quite a few times. These flowers you see here had like a lot of, I don't know, puffy or extra petals in the back, so I did give them a little bit of a haircut, a little trim, to make sure that they would fit a little bit nicer. You can vary your pattern so it's not all the same flowers. You can use more than just the few that I used. This is totally customizable to your liking. I am just realizing as I go here that my leaves that were on that kind of base were a little bit all over the place. I thought it would look cool and a little bit, I don't know, just more eclectic that way, but it ended up being a little bit wonky. So the cool thing is I just snipped off some leaves and then positioned them to where I wanted them to be so that I knew they would look good and not so kind of crazy. So that's what I'm working on here, is readjusting where I have my leaves to where I think they should be and where they would look good. Once I'm done with that, it is not totally time to finish yet. We have to try it on and see how it looks. So here I am just testing it, and yeah, really weird leaves everywhere, like I just said. So back to the drawing board with the leaves, and I start cutting away again and repositioning them. I ended up adding 2 extra leaves to the end of each side of my flower crown, and then I had 1 extra leaf at the very end that I just ended up saving for another DIY, because it wouldn't make sense that if I'm making a symmetrical, as in symmetrical, not as in asymmetrical, anyways, a symmetrical crown, that I wouldn't have 1 extra leaf on the other side. So I just saved that one for later, and I'm just wrapping these up. Now, I didn't end up having to secure the leaves with felt because they just glued really nicely to each other, and it worked out just fine. I ended up really liking that at the back, as you can see, there is that little bit of a gap where there aren't any leaves or flowers, but I think it makes sense. So that there's, you know, a front and a back. It makes it more apparent. It makes it a little bit more structured looking. Now I'm just fine tuning my piece here by snipping off any extra little pieces of stem that are sticking out, by extra securing some of my areas with some extra hot glue, and making sure all my felt is secure so that when I put my crown on, it is not going to all completely fall apart, which would be devastating. Then I try it on one last time, and let's move on to the reveal.